Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. My name is Irene Anthony. I'm a Senior International Student and Scholar Coordinator here at ISSS, and I'm joined today by Edith Zhang, who is a student advisor. Edith, you want to say hello?
Hi, good morning. Yes, good morning. So I'm Edith. I student advisor. So really glad to be here today. On this on-campus employment and SSN webinar.
Okay. So, as the title suggests, today's topic that we're going to be discussing is about on-campus employment and Social Security numbers. This is intended for students. Okay, so if you're a J1 scholar, this really isn't a webinar for you. This is solely for students who are enrolled in an academic degree program at Penn. Just a couple of housekeeping rules. If you have any questions, please pose them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and Edith and I can answer them along the way. All right, so without further ado, we will get started, and Edith is going to start off for us.
Sure. So what is on-campus employment? So usually there's four criteria. Um, Employment that is for the benefit of Penn, and somebody will receive payment from Penn payroll or other compensations like free room, free food. So if you are a PhD student, fellowships, or some kind of assistantships, and it should occur on Penn premises. And during school session, it's limited to 20 hours per week. However, it can be more than 20 hours per week during summer break or winter break. So in general, all four of those should be met. However, if those employment meets some but not all criteria, please be sure to discuss with your advisor to see if this is a permitted activity. If it's unpaid, please definitely be sure to discuss this with your ICE advisor, as unpaid position can also be considered as employment. So who can work on campus? F1 students can work on campus at school that's issued their valid I-20, which in your case, Penn, while you attending the school, which is Penn, and maintain your F1 status means have the full-time study.
And for J1 students, it's a little bit different. For J1, you have to get permission to work on campus from ISSS prior to you undertaking a start date or working on that in that position. So the first thing you'd want to do is submit a request for on-campus employment in your IPEN record. There's a form that would need to be completed and uploaded as part of that request. The first part is completed by you. The second part is completed by the individual where you will be working on campus. For J1, again, it is like an F. You can only work a maximum of 20 hours per week while school is in session. Vacations and holidays, you can work longer. J1 authorization for on-campus employment can only be issued in increments of 12 months or shorter. So keep in mind, if you're doing a fellowship, assistantship, and you have a 1-year approval from our office, the following year, you're going to have to submit another request to extend that on-campus approval for another 12 months. Okay, so practice question. A student works as a teaching assistant for a professor who teaches at Wharton. The professor is planning to teach a course at Columbia University during the summer and asks the student if he will be available to continue working for him during that summer. He would like the student to serve as a teaching assistant for the course at Columbia. So question is this opportunity allowed under an on-campus employment for F1 or J1 students? Edith?
Actually, that is not. That is not on-campus employment. So the student should check with ISSS or specifically their ICE advisor to see if they can request special permission. But more likely, this is just a pure off-campus employment and they need to apply for F1 or J1 work authorization.
Okay.
So here are several examples for on-campus employment, like TA, RA, GA positions for Penn. and Penn only. Academic department. As a PhD student, you can obtain fellowships, that is on-campus employment. And you can work at Penn libraries and Penn Gym, Fitness Center for Penn student agencies and at Daily Pennsylvanian.
Okay. What is not considered on-campus employment, this is just a list of what sometimes is confused as on-campus employment, but it's not. You're not authorized for on-campus employment at these places. So red and blue call center, a lot of people think that's a Penn employer. It's not. Same thing with CHOP. It's not a Penn employer. The Wistar Institute, even though it's physically located on our campus, the paycheck that is being cut is not coming from Penn. So that's a telltale sign. So just keep in mind that, as Edith mentioned earlier, if you do have an opportunity to work at one of these places, special authorization would have to be provided by our office. And so you'd want to reach out to your advisor first to see if it is something that we could approve for your employment purposes. Um, some further information about off-campus locations, CHOP. A lot of times there are volunteer positions available, but again, you have to work with your ISSS advisor, even in a voluntary capacity. If the position being offered is voluntary, you're not going to get paid. Please reach out to your ISSS advisor for further information because you could be somehow violating your visa status, which in the climate today is something you do not want to do. So when in doubt, reach out to your ISSS advisor.
So here is just a brief view of this off-campus work authorization. So there are, if you're F1 student, there are two types of U.S. work authorization that you're eligible for, which is curricular practical training, CPT, which is processed by Penn ISSS, and optional practical training, which is OPT, that is processed by USCIS. So later on, we'll have webinar about CPT and OPT, so please keep an eye out for our newsletter.
And for J1 academic training, it's a little bit different. It only goes through ISSS for approval. And that's true for before graduation or after graduation if you want to undertake an off-campus activity, whether it's paid or not. Again, please reach out. There's a notification or request in your IPEN record. Academic training is to a J1 what OPT is to an F1, basically. I know there's a lot of confusion about it, but if you're a J1 student, you have academic training, not OPT. And as it says, all campus employment, off-campus employment has to be approved prior to undertaking any employment. Again, this could be construed as a violation of your visa status if you don't comply with that. Other thing to remember about all three options, curricular, optional, and academic training, the activity has to directly relate to the degree for which you're in the United States to study.
Well, that being said, if you're working on campus and your position meets all the criteria, it's paid by Penn on Penn payroll, work for Penn on Penn premises, it does not have to be related to a focus study. You can work in the cafeteria, you can work in the library, you can work in the gym. But if it's off campus, it must be related to a photo study. So if you got offered a job, please provide a job offer. Or if you're interested in applying for a job, please provide the job posting and consult with your advisor prior to accepting or even applying for this position, especially if you are uncertain about whether your position would qualify as on-campus employment.
Okay, so the next steps then would be if you're getting paid, you'd have to make an appointment at Onboard at Penn, and they will oversee or look at your documents to make sure you have the appropriate employment authorization to be employed. So you'd be prepared to bring your passport, your I-20, your DS 2019 if you're a J1 student, your copy of your I-94 card. And remember that as an F1 student, you cannot work after your I-20 has expired for on-campus positions, very important. Likewise, for J1 students, you cannot work once your DS 2019 form has expired or your on-campus employment form that has been signed by ISSS has expired, whichever is earlier. Um, if you're going to get paid by Penn, you're going to have to apply for a Social Security number, which we'll go over in the next section. The temporary number that you have been issued is not a Social Security number, so keep that in mind. Um, and you may work while the Social Security number application is pending at the local office. But again, make sure you undertake that responsibility of applying for a Social Security number. And we'll go into that.
Okay, so sure, another case study about work after graduation. There's a student work at Penn Libraries during their senior year, but their supervisor want them to continue working for the summer to help them with a special project. The student will plan to graduate in May 2025, and their I-20 end date will be May 19th, 2025. Can the student keep working in the summer?
No, as I just said, you cannot work beyond on campus beyond the end date on your I-20. So the answer to that would be no. So if they are going to be participating in an activity, then they need to reach out to their ISSS advisor to see if, that would be eligible for optional practical training or academic training after completion of their studies.
Okay, let's talk about Social Security number. So F1 J1 students are eligible to apply for a US SSN, which is short for Social Security number, if they have future or current employment, not in the past, because SSA office will not approve it. So the document required includes on-campus employment form signed by hiring department. And must have a wet signature on the form. When we're processing this form, we see a lot of digital signature, and that is not acceptable per SSA office. And the SSN support letter from ISSS, which you can request through IPEN, must also have a wet signature on them. So that's why we will send out the pickup instruction and require people to come to our office to pick it up. And other immigration documents, such as I-20/DS 2019, F1 or J1 visa stamp scan copy, your passport, and I-94. But the I-20 or DS 2019 can be digitally signed, but you need to print it out and you need to sign it with your red signature. The required document may vary if applying based on off-campus work. So if you got an internship off-campus this summer and you're applying for a CPT, etc., please consult ICE website or ask your ICE advisor for more information. So as of now, SSA office will require a scheduled appointment through ssa.gov and finish the appointment at the SSA office. You can see the card center information, and we updated the instruction on our website.
Okay, so there might be situations where you're not eligible for a Social Security number. Okay, if you're not going to be working the Social Security Administration, working and earning money from a U.S. source, the Social Security Administration says you're not eligible for Social Security numbers. So on our website, we do have a list of different things you can do to handle those practical matters that typically need a Social Security number, but which you really don't. In some cases, you can always go to the Social Security office and request a no issue letter, whereby the Social Security letter basically will issue a letter saying this person is not eligible for a Social Security number, thereby just demonstrating to whichever entity that you applied, but you're not eligible for it. But further information about all of these is on our website about how you can apply without a Social Security number.
So there are some special considerations. As we all know that SSN is required for tax purposes if you're employed in the US. However, ISS is not a tax expert, but we will send an email with tax information and access to non-resident tax software, which is Spring Tax. in late February or early March. This year will be sent around February 19th. So, and also please check with your hiring department if there's any additional requirement for you to start working on campus.
Okay. So I think we like did this in record time today. Um, let's see. So let's see. We got a question. Can I get on-campus employment at this point? So the answer to that would be if you have a position, and it kind of depends on whether you're an F1 or a J1. If you're an F1, you would use the I-20 to apply for on-campus employment so you can get paid on board at Penn. If you're a J1, remember that you would need to submit the request first to ISSS for on-campus employment. Our office doesn't really assist in helping find a position. We're more about the kind of the after effect, the employment authorization that is required. Okay. Um, how about an H-1B vote if they H-1B visa holders, if they want to have a full-time and one part-time, can they? Part-time job, can they? Okay, so again, just to reiterate, this webinar was solely for students. H-1B is for scholars. So any H-1 or J-1 scholar questions, please reach out to your ISSS advisor for further information because that would mean an amended H petition or even possibly, discussion whether you're even qualified for it. Edith, do you see the next one?
Yes, so you're an F1 student and plan to intern this summer. You do not have SSN yet, so if you do not have a on-campus job at this point, you probably cannot apply for SSN because you're not currently employed. But if you do have the offer letter in the future, uh, yes, you can apply for SSN based on your CPT in CPT authorized position. So the first step will be apply for CPT, which includes registering your class and submit the CPT Record 20 request in IPEN. Once you get that, you will have the required document for CPT employment-based SSN application. The information can be found on our website. In this case, we will not issue a SSN support letter, uh, which is different from this on-campus employment SSN application because your employer will not be Penn. And your CPT authorized I-20 will serve as a evidence that you're authorized to work. That is correct.
Okay, the question was, I've got my offer letter from a firm,
Yes.
so I need to apply for CPT and use that for the Social Security application, right? And
Yeah,
Edith is saying yes.
that's
Okay,
right.
all right. Edith, in your experience, and just keep the questions coming. In your experience, what are some common pitfalls of the on-campus employment or Social Security from your experience as both an advisor and working at the front desk?
Well, like I said when I was talking about SSN letter request, um, the on-campus authorization form will request a wet signature. So we'll print out the form, fill it out, have the supervisor or whoever sign your offer letter to hand sign it. And you scan the hand signed copy and upload to IPEN for your SSN support letter. Otherwise, we will either deny or set a follow-up with you. So that will cost extra time. And also make the appointment with SSA office. It used to be just walk in, but recently they changed it. So this is some update that people will need to pay attention to. And also for CPT or OPT based SSN application, uh, there is no SSN support letter requested by SSA office. The I-20 will be enough. But still, you may or may not be questioned at the SSA office by their staff member. At this point, if you have all the required document, but still facing pushing back from the SSA office, uh, the suggestion might be try another time, try to meet a different person. And a lot of time this helps.
Yeah, it's the vagaries of applying through a government office. Sometimes you get the wrong person and you go back and the problem seems to have disappeared when you've talked to a different person. So, any other questions? I'm not sure how many people are on this call, but um, thank you for your patience. We originally had this scheduled for last Friday, but as you all know, Penn closed for the Eagles parade, so we decided to do it on Monday instead today. So, um, trying to think of any other common questions or issues that to share about that. Again, as Edith had mentioned in her section at the beginning of the presentation, even if you're like doing a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship, you still have to apply for on-campus employment, just because if you're getting compensated for, tuition or room and board or anything of like that nature, you just have to make sure you're applying for it.
Oh, right. Another thing is do not share your SSN with anybody unless it's like for specific employment reason, like updating your SSN with onboarding at Penn, or provide this to your employer for onboarding or employment purpose or tax reason. So I'm having a lot of people will just email me a 9-digit number and ask me to confirm if that's their social security number. In most cases, no, because that's the space holder they got from onboarding at Penn. But it's really dangerous to shoot the SSN information through email to people, as email is not the most secure way of transporting a super like confidential information. So just be sure to not provide this to anybody. Always keep this in mind and keep the actual SSN card in a safe place. Safe place.
Yeah, memorize your social security number, and as Edith says, don't share it. Really, it's don't email it. Especially nowadays, the scams have gotten very sophisticated, and you might be a victim of identity theft. So just guard that with guard your social security number with your life. And another thing to remember about social security number, it's with you for life. So once issued, you never have to apply for another one. It's good for the rest of your life. Okay, and Edith, it looks like there's one more. I've got my offer letter from a firm, so I need to apply for CPT and use that for SSN application, right?
Oh, we just was just
Oh,
answered that.
okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
missed that. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, if you do have any questions, feel free to call our office or you can, there's a contact information. You can pose your question and it'll be sent to us for response or forwarded to your advisor. Feel free to reach out to your advisor. Everyone has advising hours. So, but we are here to help and assist. And that's it for today, I guess. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Bye. I stopped recording.